my eyes alighted on a brown pair of leather boots. The calves were perfection. It took me a second to realise where the boots actually stopped. Her tan was perfect. So I didn't know then, but she was a tennis player. And she was one of those horrible people that when they went out in the sun, they went brown. Like that, not pasty and splotchy like myself. And that was the first time I laid my eyes on my wife, then Kirsty Craw. We hit it off, but as fate is notoriously fickle, we were both with different people and were just friends for quite a while. We played tennis, would catch up. We both played for the Marist Football Club, so we caught up with each other on a regular basis, and we became good friends. Soon I realised, though, that being friends wasn't going to be enough for me. When I realised this, luckily I was single at the time. Awesome. She wasn't. She was going out with a friend of mine, and I'm sorry to say, I broke the bro code. Yeah, the lads have hummed there already. I went after my friend's girlfriend. From conversation, yeah, there's hissing from guys already. I understand this. You're young, and you're telling us. I know this. I know, okay. The only salve from my guilt, or how I explained it away, was that in conversations with her playing tennis, that she wasn't very happy. And it makes no excuse, obviously. But I didn't feel as bad as I kind of upped the ante. And I soon put her in an uncomfortable position because I told her how I felt. Because these things will sit and fester in your head if you do not get them out, regardless of how the fall might hurt. She looked a little confused, and she was put in a difficult position, and she told me that, and she said, let me think about it. She went away to Peki Beach, which was where she used to go when she had troubles and had to think. And I knew I must have actually implanted something in her head for her to actually go away and have a think. She came back, broke up with a boyfriend, and we began our 15 years together. I know it's horrible, I'm sorry. But it worked out well for me. More often than not, it was good. She struggled with demons and I battled them alongside her. And we got to a place where she was able to keep them locked up when she needed to. She could be hard work. She was born to older parents, and love wasn't their first language. But they loved her possessively. They loved her fiercely. So I played interpreter. The different languages we spoke eventually evolved into a dialect we could both speak. She wasn't as comfortable with affection as I was, but she tolerated my wooing and my silliness with either a wry smile or a soft, piss off you dick. Sorry, kids. Kirsty, unfortunately, was not only born with emotional troubles with her heart, but physical troubles. She had open heart surgery at 4 days old to repair a hole in her heart, and she had a tough run growing up. But she lived a full, active, sporting life. She crammed a lot of it in that space of time. Her parents, being older, were very protective. She wasn't allowed to go on school camps or to kindergarten and things like that. So that sort of made her a little more introverted and preferred to stay at home, which was okay. And then in 2005, she had to go back in for open heart surgery to repair a valve, which went really well, except 2 days later, when we found out she was getting dizzy spells, and so they hooked her up to what's called telemetry. And we were up in Auckland, and anywhere in the ward, they could sense what was going on with her heart. And they said, whenever you feel weird, tell Ellen to come tell the nurse. So she said, whoa, I feel weird. And I went to the nurse and I said, Kirsty's feeling weird, check the monitor. And they went, oh. And I went, oh? And apparently her heart was stopping for up to 5 to 8 seconds at a time, which obviously made us a little bit worried. Something had happened in the surgery, but they whipped her open, whipped in a pacemaker, and it solved the problem. Just like that. And so we carried on, and then in late 2009, only after a month or so of trying, Kirsty fell pregnant. The scar. And then again in early 2011, we had 2 beautiful girls. Sam is 8 and Georgie is 6. And they're beautiful, sweet souls, and I'm in constant awe that I, or at least our handsome mailman Ramon, had a hand in creating them. They have fierce, hot, vivid imaginations that I have to keep remembering to blow on to keep those embers hot and burning. They cry, they laugh, they play, they fight, they scream and whisper, all in equal measure, I presume. At least seems normal for the wildly housebroken creatures that they are. I'm proud of them. And I'm more often than sometimes proud of me too. I'm proud that people tell me how polite they are, how creative they are, and how much they look like their mum. Because their mum was beautiful. She was also feisty and stubborn and devoted to them with a sort of rabid intensity that those toy breed dogs have, reminding you that it's not the size of the dog in the fight. Even though she struggled sometimes to express her emotion and her passion to others, with Sam and George it was white hot, with laser focus, and they were hers. And if you came close to hurting them, look out. See, I may not be able to claim the mother lioness, protect my cub status, but I have to claim emperor penguin status. See, after the female lays the egg, her nutritional reserves become so depleted that she must return to the ocean for 2 months to feed and replenish herself. That leaves the responsibility of keeping the egg alive through the freezing Antarctic winter to the father. The father spends 2 months holding the egg precariously between the tops of his feet and his brooding pouch. See, lads, if anyone ever tells you you've got a bare belly, say, no, it's my brooding pouch. Right, they're thinking. And they have to survive, all without eating through the winter. And if he moves too suddenly, or the egg gets exposed to the winds, the chick will perish. He knows it is just him. See, I'm a man who has to play emperor penguin. Sam and Georgie lost their mum in May last year to a sudden heart attack. At the gym, if you can believe the horrid irony of it all. I'm an improviser by trade, so believe me, it's okay to contemplate making a joke about exercise being bad for your health. See, I didn't know back then that when I lay my head on her chest, it wasn't her heart beating I could hear, it was ticking. So Sam at 5 and 7 lost their lioness, and in my wardrobe a pair of brown leather boots sit unfilled. I'm terrified a lot of the time. I'm terrified I'll not teach them how to grow into strong, independent women. I'm also scared that I will. Because if I do, I'll become superfluous. So I must decide what examples I have to set for them to follow. I must understand I'll sometimes set examples that they should ignore, and must understand that they are teaching me just as much as I am teaching them. I want them to be strong in the face of everything, afraid of nothing, brave beyond belief, dismissive of nasty words, and impervious to nasty deeds. I want all of that. But I know it's not something anyone can promise. Like all of us, they'll learn that we usually don't know when we'll need to be strong, when we'll be afraid, brave, dismissive, or impervious, until we actually need to be. See, the old adage of there is no manual for life, there is no manual for grief, I don't think that's exactly true. I believe we can piece together a pretty darn good manual once we realise that we on our own don't hold all the information. It's there, but it's stored in other people and experiences, and unfortunately trial and error. 18 months ago I realised that my manual had some blank pages. Luckily, a very learned and wise friend of mine sat with me in companionable silence. That silence when you know words can't fill the gap, so you just sit there. She turned to me and she said, "You realise now you're going to have to walk your talk." With that sort of wry smile that she knew she'd nailed a difficult thing. How so, I said, knowing her in that smile. All of that positive talk to your friends, telling them to ask for help, spoken word poetry you send to people to help them. You now have to be that person. You have to take your own advice. You have to walk your talk. I looked at her, hoping I could rage at her for her ignorance and her audacity. "Bugger," I said. She was right. And then I realised my kit bag was there again. So George and I and Sam, we entered the maze. We took left, rights, we took good turns, we took bad turns. But Sam and George were there when I feared I was lost, their faith in their emperor penguin unflappable. And I had my tribe, as I call them. So I don't ever have to wonder if I'm loved. I received 5 lifetimes worth in the last 18 months. It's very, very humbling. You see, we're not given hope. We must chase it. Inspiration doesn't come from dreams, it comes from experiences lived, and those experiences survived. I couldn't get stuck on why me. I could get stuck on, thank God it didn't happen to someone else. Earlier I talked about being strong and brave. I'm not. I'm simply enough. And all I want for Sam and George is that. Enough. Enough of everything to be happy. Enough hugs to make a Care Bear jealous. Enough bravery to make mistakes, and enough sense to only make them once. Enough experience to know that having everything sometimes isn't enough. But they will always have enough love. And to me, that is everything.